In the shadows of history lurk tales so chilling they defy comprehension. Today we delve into these grim stories. In the annals of crime, certain cases stand out, not just for their sheer horror, but also for the incomprehensible motives and methods of the criminals involved. These are stories that push the boundaries of what we thought possible, forcing us to confront the darkest corners of human nature. Our first tale takes us to the heart of Italy, to the home of Leonarda Cianciulli, a woman whose heinous crimes would earn her the chilling epithet of the soapmaker of Correggio. In a twisted attempt to protect her son from the perils of World War II, Cianciulli turned to human sacrifice. Not content with merely taking lives, she transformed the bodies of her victims into soap and cakes, sharing these morbid creations with her unsuspecting neighbors and customers. Next, we journey across the Atlantic to the United States, where Wesley Allen Dodd lurked in the shadows. A monster masquerading as a man, Dodd preyed upon the most vulnerable, leaving a trail of terror in his wake. His twisted desires led him to not only kidnap and kill young boys, but also to meticulously document his horrific deeds. His crimes shook the nation, forcing us to confront the existence of evil in our midst. Finally, we return to a haunting Christmas Eve in 1945, where a fire in West Virginia ignited a mystery that continues to smolder to this day. In the aftermath of the blaze that consumed the Sodder family home, 5 children vanished without a trace. Despite their parents' unwavering belief that they were kidnapped and the fire was a mere cover-up, no evidence has ever emerged to provide closure. Their disappearance remains one of the most enduring unsolved mysteries in American history. These are stories of unimaginable horror, tales that force us to confront the darkest depths of human nature. But remember, as we delve into these chilling narratives, they serve as a stark reminder of the capacity for evil that exists in our world. Our journey into the heart of darkness starts in the quiet streets of Italy. The year was 1940. In the midst of World War II, a monstrous act unfolds in an unsuspecting Italian neighborhood. Our story begins with Leonarda Cianciulli, a seemingly ordinary woman living in the small town of Correggio, Italy. She was known as a loving mother and a well-respected soap maker. But behind the facade of normalcy, Leonarda was nurturing a dark and sinister secret. Leonarda was a superstitious woman, deeply rooted in the belief of the paranormal. She often sought the wisdom of fortune-tellers, one of whom foretold a chilling prophecy, that she would outlive all her children. This prophecy haunted Leonarda, especially when she lost 10 of her 17 children at young ages. But the terror didn't end there. As World War II loomed, her only surviving son was drafted into the Italian army, a prospect that filled Leonarda with unspeakable dread. In her desperation to protect her son, Leonarda spiraled into a grotesque delusion. She came to believe that human sacrifice would ensure her son's safety. This twisted belief led her down a path of unimaginable horror. Leonarda chose her victims carefully, 3 middle-aged women, all of whom trusted her implicitly. As each woman disappeared, Leonarda's gruesome ritual began. She lured her victims, killed them, and then boiled their bodies to create soap. In a shocking twist, she also used their blood to bake cakes. Leonarda then distributed these macabre products to her unsuspecting neighbors and customers, who praised her for her excellent soap and delicious pastries. The horror came to light when the sister of Leonarda's final victim grew suspicious and reported her disappearance. The police soon uncovered Leonarda's grisly operation. The soapmaker of Correggio was arrested, her chilling confession leaving the town and the world in shock and disbelief. Leonarda was tried for her crimes and sentenced to 30 years in prison, where she died in 1970. Her story remains one of the most gruesome tales of crime and delusion, a stark reminder of the depths humanity can sink to in the face of fear and desperation. A mother's love twisted into a grotesque nightmare. But our journey doesn't end here. Fast forward to 1989. Across the ocean in the land of the free, a predator lurks. In the picturesque Pacific Northwest, a region known for its lush forests and majestic mountains, a monster named Wesley Allen Dodd was on the prowl. Dodd, a man who would become infamous for his heinous crimes against children, was not a mythical beast but a human, making his actions all the more horrifying. Born in 1961, Dodd seemed to lead an ordinary life on the surface. But beneath this facade, a vile darkness festered. This darkness would soon consume the lives of 3 innocent boys. Dodd didn't merely kill his victims, he meticulously planned his crimes, took perverse pleasure in them, and even kept a chilling diary detailing his monstrous deeds. In his own words, Dodd wrote about the abduction, abuse, and murder of his victims. His diary entries read like a manual for evil, outlining his twisted fantasies and the perverse satisfaction he derived from them. A disturbing testament to his depravity was his plan to build a torture rack, a device he intended to use on his future victims. This plan, thankfully, was never realized. His victims were young boys, each one a beacon of innocence extinguished far too soon. His first victim was a 4-year-old, followed by 2 brothers aged 10 and 11. Each child was lured, trapped, and then mercilessly killed. Dodd's modus operandi was not only horrifying in its brutality, but also in its cold, calculated execution. Despite his efforts to remain undetected, Dodd's reign of terror came to an end when a potential victim escaped and alerted authorities. His capture led to a trial that shocked the nation and a sentence that reflected the gravity of his crimes. Dodd was executed by hanging in 1993, becoming the first man to be hanged in the United States since 1965. Wesley Allen Dodd serves as a grim reminder that monsters are not merely figments of our imagination, but can be very real and very human. His crimes were a stark violation of the innocence of childhood and a dark stain on the fabric of society. Despite the horror and revulsion his story evokes, it's crucial to remember his victims, who were robbed of their lives and their futures. Their memory serves as a poignant reminder of the need for vigilance and the protection of the most vulnerable members of our society. A sinister tale of a man who turned childhood innocence into a living nightmare. Yet, there's more to uncover. We turn back the clock to 1945. A joyous Christmas Eve in West Virginia shatters into a lifelong torment for the Sodder family. In the small hours of that fateful night, the Sodder household, filled with laughter and holiday cheer just hours before, was suddenly engulfed in flames. George and Jenny Sodder, parents of 10, managed to save themselves and 4 of their children. But 5 of their offspring, Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny, and Betty, were nowhere to be found. The fire, which leveled the Sodder home to the ground, was initially ruled as faulty wiring. But as the smoke cleared and the Sodders began to grapple with their unimaginable loss, they couldn't shake off a gnawing suspicion. The children, they believed, had not perished in the fire, but had been taken away, the blaze serving as a macabre smokescreen for a calculated abduction. Why, they wondered, did the phone lines to their house get cut? Who was the stranger who, days before the fire, pointed at their fuse boxes and claimed they would cause a fire someday? And most hauntingly, why were no remains of their children found in the ashes? These questions, like the memory of that dreadful night, refused to fade away. The Sodders were relentless in their pursuit of the truth. They hired private investigators, erected a billboard offering a substantial reward for any information, and even commissioned a pathologist to conduct an excavation of their burnt home. Yet the trail remained cold. Their children had seemingly vanished into thin air. Theories began to circulate, each more chilling than the last. Some whispered of a possible connection to the local mafia, a retaliation for George Sodder's outspoken views against Mussolini and the fascist regime in his native Italy. Others suggested that the children had been taken by child trafficking rings, spirited away in the chaos of the fire. Yet despite these leads, the mystery of the Sodder children's disappearance remained unsolved. The authorities, sticking to their initial conclusion, insisted that children had died in the fire, their bodies reduced to ashes in the intense heat. But the Sodders, clinging to hope amidst despair, refused to accept this. They believed until their last breaths that their children were still out there, somewhere, waiting to be found. The Sodder children's case continues to baffle investigators and true crime enthusiasts alike. It's a haunting reminder that sometimes, reality can be stranger and more terrifying than fiction. A story of a family's joyous Christmas Eve turned into a never-ending nightmare, a tale of hope and despair, of questions left unanswered, and a search that never truly ended. A family's Christmas turned into an unsolved mystery that haunts us even today. As we emerge from these chilling tales, we confront a chilling reality. In a world where we expect safety, comfort, and normality, we are occasionally forced to confront the presence of unthinkable horror. Let's cast our minds back to Leonarda Cianciulli, the seemingly ordinary Italian woman who killed 3 women and turned their bodies into soap and cakes. Her twisted belief in human sacrifice and the nonchalant way she shared her gruesome creations with unsuspecting neighbors is a stark reminder of how easily evil can blend into society. Then, there's Wesley Allen Dodd, an American man who inflicted unimaginable suffering on 3 innocent boys. His detailed diary of his heinous acts and future plans for a torture rack are not only a testament to his depravity but also a chilling insight into the minds of such monsters. His execution in 1993 brought an end to his reign of terror, but his memory still sends shivers down our spines. And who could forget the tragic case of the Sodder children? 5 siblings disappeared without a trace following a devastating fire on Christmas Eve 1945. The theory of a cover-up and the lack of answers continue to haunt their family and true crime enthusiasts alike. Their story is a solemn reminder of the fragility of life and the enduring pain caused by unsolved mysteries. These 3 cases, each shocking in its own right, have left an indelible imprint on society. They force us to confront the existence of evil in our world, not as an abstract concept, but as a tangible, horrifying reality. They remind us of the monsters that lurk in the shadows, beneath the veneer of normality, waiting for an opportunity to strike. In the face of such darkness, we are reminded of the monsters that walk among us, hidden beneath the veneer of normality.